Some of you may not have heard, but Orc Boar Chariots got a little bit of a buff with the Beastmen rework, because I'm sure they share some skeleton and animation sets with the Beastmen Chariots. They now also have had some of the improvements and are broken in a similar way that the Tuskor and Razorgore Chariots are. So today I'm up against Hadris once again. I'm with the Lizardmen here. He's got the Greenskins, Goblin Great Shaman, Giant River Troll Hag, 4 Boar Chariots, 4 Wolf Rider Archers, and what is that? 4 Savage Orc Biggins, some Wolf Rider, melee Wolf Riders as well, chase routing units for myself. This is the maximum AoE bound damage abilities. We've got 2 Engine of the Gods, Mazdamundi, and a Quaddle. So lots of AoE damage abilities to take out infantry, 3 Sora Spears, along with some skink cohorts, but the Chariots immediately just going to charge through, just absolutely destroy this poor skink cohort. And I'm now going to push forward with the Sora Spears, try and screen, get the single entity fight underway. Itchy Nuisance, less melee attack and base weapon damage, but look at the Chariots. One thing I want to point out about the Boar Chariots is how this is also true of the Tuskors as well, because they have like very small collision now compared to what they do before. You can see them, like this guy, literally like phases and clips directly through his friends. So that is one of the things I think that's wrong with these Chariots, is that they actually have no like hitbox anymore and can all like blob in around these single entities. I'm going to be a little bit late with this Quaddle flying in. I really should rear charge this blob like right now. Rear charge some of these Chariots to try and get them to terror route. They are getting relatively low on leadership in some circumstances, but Overcast Net, try and pin them all in place. We're also going to throw out our orbital bombardments here, get some really nice contact on a couple of units of Biggins, so pretty good damage already on that. The Pterodons also just dropping some heat. There's Ruination of Cities and Banishment to literally destroy and shatter most of the skirmish cav there, so kind of shows the power of this build and what I was going for, right? A little bit cheesy perhaps, but hey. Just having some fun here, testing some games, but the Sora Spears, despite fighting, you know, large units that you would think they'd be good against, the Chariots just completely tear them apart in this kind of critical mass, along with the Spider and everything. The Troll Hag, of course, also contributing as well. We're going to drop some rocks on those Savage Orc Biggins, so we've been able to manage most of the units quite well. This one that does get loose in the infantry fight, just tearing apart the Sora Spear, really not great for me, but you can see the Quaddle still completely late. Actually just charges in on the Savage Orc Biggins that Mazdamundi's having to fight rather than coming to support. But the Ancient Stegodon already losing out, and this one in particular here, I mean, look at this. Look at this blob of Orc Boar Chariots, how they're just clipping through each other and getting way more models in contact than they should be able to. Engine of the Gods is taking a lot of damage as a result. Nice Fear attack from the Goblin Great Shaman as well on this other Ancient Stegodon. Engine of the Gods here, and suddenly things are really not looking great for me. While the balance power is still relatively close, these 2 Ancient Stegodons are pretty much done for, especially with Wa being popped now. These Orc Boar Chariots go up to 52 melee attacks, so they're basically going to be getting lots of consistent hits here, and they rout both of the Ancient Stegodons. Because yes, that's how this game is supposed to work, right? Chariots beat single entities in melee, and this was an interaction that did happen somewhat before, but only really with expensive high-tier armor-piercing Chariots. And, you know, if you got them in a full surround, that's a significant amount of value. Here, though, now that the Boar Chariots are cheaper, and the fact they can get an even better surround because of their weird, like, you know, thin collision box, I'm going to go ahead and throw in the towel. Relatively short game, but just, yeah. A little bit ridiculous. The Boar Chariots do end up taking some damage, but don't lose a single model on any of the 4 units here. All of them, I mean, it's not like they got an insane amount of value, but considering how cheap they are now, this is very cost effective. Also allowing, again, the mass blocking, Goblin Great Shaman to get in here and get some really good value. I was able to mostly just completely explode the Biggins. The Skirmish Cav also, I mean, kind of cost effective. It mostly just gets exploded as well, but the Chariots ruin my entire day. Granted, again, my sloppy play, if I had got a good rear charge with the Quaddle at the right moment, I might have been able to terrify away those Boar Chariots, and maybe this battle turns out a little differently. Hard to say. A lot of ifs, but regardless, I just really feel that these Chariots, you know, 2 of which is still less expensive than the Engine of the Gods, really you'd have to have 3 of them together to overtake the price of the Engine of the Gods. So just feels a little bit wrong that a unit that's meant to fight infantry and does very well, as you saw at the beginning there, just completely executed a skink cohort. They really shouldn't be that good against single entities. And again, you see that sometimes in previous patches with the more expensive, higher tier armor-piercing chariots, and I'm generally fine with that. You know, I've used something like, you know, Cold One chariots or White Lion chariots for the High Elves, or Gore Beasts. You know, these higher tier armor-piercing chariots, you expect them to perform a little bit better, right? And maybe even be able to fight some single entities, especially cheaper ones, in a pinch. You were able to do that before with Razorgore chariots, but now with the Razorgores, with the Tuskgores, and with the Orc Boar chariots, they're just way overperforming against these targets. And I just wanted to draw attention to that. You know, be careful when facing the Greenskins. I really don't understand, and I want to... Generally, I'm pretty positive towards CA, and again, I think there's a lot of great in this patch, but I really do not understand the need to buff Boar Boy's speed. There was not enough nerfs in the first place for the Greenskins, and I was not someone who was actually calling for really heavy nerfs to the Greenskins, and even I don't think they got enough nerfs. And yet somehow also they got some pretty significant buffs. The speed was one of the biggest weaknesses to the Orc Boar Boys, and now they're just straight up better than most other cavalry in their class. They've got armor piercing, great charge. I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but I'm sorry. I'm actually pretty upset about this change. I think it's completely ridiculous. Like, you compare now Knights Errant to Orc Boar Boys. Boar Boys, 15 less armor, slightly less stats all around, but not really enough to make a difference, especially given that they're almost as fast now. The speed used to be very significant difference, but now it's pretty negligible, and they just straight up pick up armor-piercing damage, and they're 50 points cheaper. So really, in every measure, they are a better unit than Knights Errant, and you can pretty much extrapolate this to every type of Boar cavalry, that they are pretty much better than any other comparable unit at their price point. I mean, even like Knights of the Realm, right? We compare them to something like the Boar Bagans, and I'm kind of getting off track here, but I mean, the Boar Chariots also got the speed buff as well. Anyway, you can see here, there's a little bit of a difference in stats, but significantly more HP on the Boar Bagans, and not that much lower stats, considering they have armor-piercing damage, right? And also massive access to a lot of buffs, whereas Bretonnia doesn't really have nearly as much in the way of support. You got much better infantry choices for Greenskins, so I really think this was quite a terrible change, and to be honest, Greenskins are still in need of some pretty heavy nerfs. But now, I mean, Orc Boar Chariots, and again, they felt the need to reduce the price on these guys. These guys are going to be performing as well, if not better, than your more expensive, higher-tier chariots like Gore Beasts. You know, at 1,200, like I mentioned before, you got, what, 1,300 for the Lion Chariots. Now these guys are, you know, just straight up way less cost effective than the Orc Boar Chariots. So a few things I think that need to be addressed as soon as possible in a hotfix is to revert the price change on the Boar Chariots. Like, I don't know why there's now exactly zero reason ever to take any of the pump wagon variants, I think. So that's a little bit painful for that. I mean, Grom the Paunch still very strong. Probably should buy the DLC for him if you haven't. But there's no use whatsoever for any of the pump wagons, which is pretty sad. I actually really like them as a unit. You know, aesthetically, they're very silly and everything. And yeah, the Boar Chariots just way overperforming for their cost. Honestly, they did way too much for these guys. I think leaving them at, what were they, 850, 900, 950, something like that, would have been fine. They still would have been really good with the changes they've made to them. But this is all just way too much. So, sorry, a little bit of a negative video today, but I just wanted to get this rant, so to speak, out of my system. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully we'll see a hotfix sooner rather than later to fix these issues. But anyway, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.